You're in the middle of Siberia. It's freezing cold, there's a lake all around you, and right there, sitting on a small island, is this massive palace monastery thing that nobody can fully explain. Nobody knows exactly who built it, nobody knows why they abandoned it, and for hundreds of years it was just sitting there, forgotten. Or picture this. You're in the desert of Rajasthan, India, and someone takes you to what looks like a giant geometric maze carved straight into the earth. Like, it goes down, way down, over 13 stories deep. And it's not a mine, it's not a basement, it's a stepwell, a staircase to water, built with such insane mathematical precision that architects today still scratch their heads at it. Or how about this? You're in Sardinia, off the coast of Italy, and you're standing in front of a massive stone altar that's over 5,000 years old. Before the pyramids, before Stonehenge got its final form, this thing was already ancient. 3 places, 3 completely different corners of the world, and all 3 of them have been quietly sitting there waiting for people to actually talk about them. So that's what we're doing today. Let's get into it. The first place we're talking about is called Bajin, historically known as Bajin. And honestly, even saying the name out loud feels like you're unlocking something. Bajin. In the Tuvan language, it literally translates to clay house. And that name is doing a lot of heavy lifting because what's actually out there is way more than just a clay house. So here's the geography first, because it matters. This place sits on a tiny island in the middle of Lake Terekkhol, which is in the Republic of Tuva, that's in southern Siberia, Russia, right near the border with Mongolia. The lake is remote, the island is small, and sitting on that island is this rectangular fortress monastery complex that covers almost half of the island's entire surface. It was built in the 8th century, around 777 AD, give or take, during the time of the Uyghur Khaganate, which was a powerful Turkic empire that controlled a massive chunk of Central Asia at the time. And when archaeologists first started properly excavating it in the mid-20th century, what they found genuinely surprised them. The outer walls are still standing. Parts of them reach up to 10 meters high. There are inner courtyards, what appear to be residential quarters, a central palace structure, and a large rectangular courtyard in the middle that, and this is the interesting part, shows almost no signs of long-term habitation. Like there's very little evidence that large numbers of people actually lived there for extended periods. So what was it for? That's where it gets complicated. One of the leading theories is that it was a Manichaean monastery, built to support the spread of Manichaeism, a religion that the Uyghur Khagan adopted in the 8th century. Manichaeism was this fascinating faith that mixed elements of Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism, and it spread across Central Asia during this period. The idea that Bajin might have been a religious hub for that movement is pretty compelling. But here's where other researchers push back. The architecture doesn't quite match what we'd expect from a purely religious site. The layout is more fortress-like, and the sheer remoteness of the location, on an island, in a lake, in one of the most isolated parts of Siberia, raises the question of why you'd put something this elaborate somewhere so hard to reach. Some historians think it might have been a summer palace for a Uyghur ruler. Others think it served multiple functions, part palace, part administrative center, part religious retreat. There's even speculation that it was built and then almost immediately abandoned, possibly because of the political collapse of the Uyghur Khaganate in the 840s. And then there's the climate angle, which is honestly fascinating. Recent research has looked at climate data from that era and found evidence that there was a period of extreme cold and volcanic activity around the time Bajin was built, or shortly after. Some researchers think environmental disruption may have made the site uninhabitable or impractical very early on. Whatever happened, it was abandoned, and then it just sat there, frozen literally and figuratively for over 1,000 years. The island floods seasonally, the clay walls have eroded. Permafrost preservation has actually helped protect some of the lower structures, but it also means excavation is incredibly difficult. Work really only happens in summer, in short windows, and the site is so remote that getting equipment and researchers out there is a logistical challenge every single time. What makes Bajin so compelling to me is that combination of mystery and isolation. It shouldn't exist where it is. A complex that size, that elaborate, on a lake island in Siberia, built by a steppe empire that no longer exists. It's like someone placed a puzzle piece in the wrong box and then everyone forgot which box it came from. There's still active research happening, and there's still no definitive answer. which honestly is kind of perfect. Okay, next one. And this one, I need you to actually look this up after this video, because photographs do not do it justice. Videos barely do it justice. You kind of have to see it in person to fully feel it. We're talking about Chan Bowie, historically and most commonly known as Chan Baori, and it is one of the most geometrically mind-bending things that human beings have ever built. It's a stepwell, located in the village of Abaneri in Rajasthan, India, and it was built somewhere around the 8th to 9th century AD, roughly contemporary with Purbashan, interestingly enough, by a king named Chanda of the Nikumba dynasty. The name Chand Baori is thought to be derived from his name, Chan's Baori. Baori meaning stepwell. Now, if you don't know what a stepwell is, it's essentially a well or reservoir that you access by walking down staircases. They were built across the Indian subcontinent as a solution to the problem of fluctuating water levels. Instead of just having a hole you lower a bucket into, you build a whole inverted structure so that as the water level drops, you can just walk further down the stairs to reach it. It's elegant engineering, practical and beautiful at the same time. But Chand Baori is not just any stepwell. It is 13 stories deep, about 30 meters, that's nearly 100 feet, from the top to the water at the bottom. And the walls on 3 sides are lined with over 3,500 steps, arranged in a perfectly symmetrical, hypnotically repeating geometric pattern that creates this optical illusion when you look at it from above. It almost looks like it's moving, like the steps are cascading. The 4th side, the north side, has a multi-story pavilion with ornate carvings, shrines, and decorative columns. There are sculptures of deities, celestial dancers, erotic carvings, the full range of classical Indian architectural decoration. It's not just a water structure, it's a cultural space, a religious space, and an engineering marvel all at once. And the precision, that's the thing that gets people. When you look at those 3,500 steps, they are not approximate. They are not good enough. They are exact. The geometry is immaculate. Each level of the stepwell is consistent, each corner is clean, it's joined, and the whole thing has this quality of being designed by someone who cared deeply, not just that it would work, but that it would be beautiful. The water at the bottom is said to be around 5 to 6 degrees Celsius cooler than the surface temperature, which matters in Rajasthan, where it gets seriously hot. The stepwell served as a gathering place, a cooling space, a social hub. Women would come to collect water, and it would become a place for community. The multi-story pavilion had spaces where royalty could sit and rest. It was a civic monument as much as it was infrastructure. Now, historically, Chand Baori fell into disuse as modern water systems replaced traditional wells. The water today is considered non-potable. You can't drink it. But the structure itself has been preserved and is now an Archaeological Survey of India protected site and a popular tourist destination. Here's a fun pop culture moment. Chand Baori's hypnotic geometry has left a massive mark on movies. If you watched The Dark Knight Rises and remember that massive, terrifying pit prison Bruce Wayne is thrown into, the design of that set was directly inspired by the inverted, geometric layout of this exact stepwell. And visually stunning movies like Tarsem Singh's The Fall actually went ahead and filmed on location, right on those very steps. So if you've seen that mesmerizing architecture on screen and thought, wait, what is that place? Now you know. But beyond the movie appearances, what I want to talk about for a second is what Chand Baori represents in terms of how we think about ancient engineering. There's a tendency, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes, to assume that sophisticated, large-scale engineering is a modern or near-modern thing. Like we look at old structures and think, okay, that's impressive for the time. But Chand Baori doesn't feel like impressive for the time. It feels impressive, period. The geometric sophistication, the scale, the precision, the dual function of utility and beauty, this is not primitive. This is mastery. And yet most people outside India have never heard of it. It doesn't get the same recognition as the Colosseum or the pyramids or Machu Picchu. And I think part of that is just about which cultures get centered in global historical narratives and which ones get treated as footnotes. Chand Baori is not a footnote. It's a headline. Alright, third and final one, and this one is going to make you rethink what you thought you knew about prehistoric Europe. We're talking about Monte di Acadi, historically known as Monte de' Codi, and it is sitting quietly in the northwest corner of Sardinia, an island off the coast of Italy, doing absolutely nothing to advertise how extraordinary it is. From a distance, it looks like a stepped mound. A hill, maybe, a bit geometric if you squint. But when you get closer and you understand what you're actually looking at, it's something else entirely. Monte de Codi is a megalithic altar, or more precisely, a raised sacrificial or ritual platform, built in stages between approximately 4000 and 2700 BCE. That's 6,000 years ago at its oldest parts. That predates the Great Pyramid of Giza. It predates the final construction phase of Stonehenge. This thing is old, and it looks, and this is the part that throws people, like a ziggurat. You know ziggurats, right? Those stepped pyramid temples from ancient Mesopotamia, modern Iraq, built by the Sumerians and Babylonians. Structures like the famous ziggurat at Ur. Well, Monte de Codi has that same basic form, a raised rectangular platform built in layers, with a ramp leading up to it. It's the only known structure of its type in all of Western Europe, which raises an enormous question. How did this architectural concept, which we typically associate with Mesopotamia, end up in Sardinia thousands of years ago? There are a few different ways people have approached this. One view is that it's convergent design, that the stepped platform shape is intuitive enough that different cultures could arrive at it independently. If you want to build something high for ritual purposes, a stepped pyramid-like structure is a fairly natural solution. Maybe Monte de Codi isn't evidence of contact with Mesopotamia. Maybe it's just evidence that humans, given similar problems and similar materials, sometimes come up with similar solutions. Another view, and this one is more controversial but worth mentioning, is that there was more contact between ancient Mediterranean cultures than we typically assume. That trade routes, migration, and cultural exchange in the Neolithic and Chalcolithic periods connected places we think of as completely separate. And that Monte de Codi might be evidence of an idea, a building tradition, traveling much further west than we expected. The site itself has been excavated in stages since the 1950s. What archaeologists found there is fascinating. There's evidence of two main construction phases, an earlier, smaller platform and then a larger one built over it, essentially doubling the structure. On the platform itself, near the top, there are traces of a structure that may have been a small building or shrine. Around the base of the monument, archaeologists found a range of objects, pots, figurines, animal bones suggesting ritual sacrifice, and most remarkably, a large spherical stone and what appears to be a stone menhir positioned nearby. These weren't accidental, they were placed deliberately, in specific relationship to the structure. There's also evidence that the surrounding area was a significant ritual landscape. This wasn't just one monument in isolation, it was part of a broader sacred geography that the people of prehistoric Sardinia were constructing and maintaining over centuries. And here's something I keep coming back to with Monte de Codi. We know almost nothing about the people who built it. They didn't leave written records. Writing hadn't been invented in that region at that time. Their names, their language, their specific beliefs, all of it is gone. What we have is the stone they shaped and placed and built upon, and the objects they left behind and the form they chose to give to the most important thing they constructed. That form, the raised, stepped altar, oriented carefully, with a ramp ascending to the top, tells us something. It tells us they wanted to reach upward, that they had ideas about height and sanctity and the relationship between the earth and something above it. That they put enormous communal effort into building something that wasn't for shelter, wasn't for defense, wasn't for agriculture. It was for meaning. In a way, that's the most human thing about it. We don't know who they were, but we know they needed meaning badly enough to build a ziggurat on an island in the Western Mediterranean 6,000 years ago. So, 3 places. Porbajin, a mysterious palace fortress on a Siberian island that shouldn't exist where it does, built by an empire that vanished for purposes we still argue about. Chamboi, a 13-story geometric staircase into the earth, built with such precision and beauty that it makes modern engineers quietly uncomfortable. And Monte de Codi, a prehistoric stepped altar that rewrites what we thought we knew about ancient Europe and raises questions we don't fully know how to answer yet. What I love about all 3 of these places, and the reason I wanted to make this video, is that they remind you how big history actually is. We tend to talk about ancient history in terms of a handful of civilizations: Egypt, Greece, Rome, China, Mesopotamia, and those are important. But the world was full of people, full of builders and thinkers and dreamers who left things behind that we're still trying to understand. The names change. Porbajin becomes Porbajin, Chambori becomes Chamboi, Monte de Codi becomes Monte de Codi, but the structures remain, and they're still asking us questions. If you've been to any of these places or if you just want to talk about them, drop it in the comments. I read them. And if this kind of deep dive history content is your thing, there's more where this came from. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.